Welcome back to another episode of Who Am I to Judge podcast. I'm Alexis.
I'm Samantha. I don't know why you're cracking up right now.
Hello, y'all. Guess who's time today?
Yes, and guess who was late?
Okay,
guess who was running a little late?
And late, you give a 15-minute heads up that you're gonna be late. That's on
no, that's who says that? No, Alexis, you wouldn't even say that by your own rules.
Sure, you're right.
No, yeah, I'm like you would.
I would be pissed.
Yeah, I know. I know you would be, but I am on time today, and I'm proud of myself because
I'm proud of you too.
I've been running late in other areas of my life, so it's nice to be early.
Look at that time. DC background in the window. It's like the perfect visual right now.
Yeah. I love it. The sun is setting behind me. How are you, Alexis?
How was your day? Oh, I'll go first. Day, so what did I? Okay, so this morning I woke up, applied to jobs, and just reached out to people on LinkedIn for Zoom calls, for networking. So I did a lot of that. Then I went to work, which was chill. Honestly, I gave zero effort at work today. I feel bad. I was staring at my phone for most of it. And then I took out my book and went to a corner and read. I was just I just was not feeling it today. And while the other actually did the work. And then I came back home, and one of the people that I had messaged on LinkedIn responded to me and was like, today. So then literally get on Zoom with her. And that was so good, such a good networking opportunity. And I'm so happy to talk to her.
Good.
And then it was eat dinner and talk to you. I will say we are dog sitting right now. We have a third dog in the house. Emmy, I should show you Emmy. She's a little 5-pound Yorkie. She's adorable. It's super sweet, but it is a lot with 3 dogs just because she's a little afraid of talks. Literally the first day she this is the thing. Emmy's 7 pounds and she's sweet, but she does not fucking play. Literally talks comes around her and she goes she's ready to just on sight just nip at her.
No, she don't play. She's holding her boundaries.
She has zero tolerance. So it's so we just have to be very mindful of that. And, we have to put the gate up when they're both. We just don't want any weird things to happen. But other than that, so it's been that's an extra workload, I guess, on me right now. But
I'm good. I had a day, I woke up. I took these natural sleeping aid and it really knocked me out. So I woke up, I got on my meeting and I slept through my meeting.
Girl, you were in a
this is my slot meeting. Yes, yeah. I slept through my meeting and I woke up. It was overflow sharing, which is the meeting is over and it's just people sharing.
Oh my god!
And so I was okay, let me get off. Then I had therapy at 12:30, and I had Jupiter's second to last puppy class, which was cute and fun. I was running a little bit late to that, and I was stressed. But it was fun and cute when I got there, and I visited my parents on the way back, and then I came home and actually just went to a meeting, and now I'm here talking to you.
What kind of meeting?
So my slot meetings. You know that.
Even though there was 2 though.
I mean, there's meetings all times of the day, so it's really whenever you need one. I try to go to my 10 a.m. meeting every day, and then I have different ones that I like to go throughout the week at different times. So yeah, it was a good meeting. I think it'll actually inform some of the stuff we're talking about today.
Tell me why. Why do you think that?
Well, just because I went to a BIPOC it's like a slaw / coda, which is like Codependence Anonymous, and slaw is Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. But in the BIPOC meetings, we're able to really talk about like race, and especially like when it comes to like romantic relationships. So it's like we read this thing that's like, do you always date Black people because it makes you feel XYZ? Do you only date white people because you like all these things that I never think about in terms of like,
I'm so excited to like think about this today with you.
Oh my God, I should probably, we just, she shared it so I can read some of the stuff that it like brings up. But yeah, I feel like maybe we should, I don't know, read that when we get there.
Yeah, or you could read it now to segue. Like, I feel like this is kind of like, I feel like what you want to talk about, it sounds like is interracial dating. And I want to say that that's like, yeah, that's something that's in pop culture, and Jerrod Carmichael did talk about it, but it's also just a topic that's personal to us, and then also just like a thing to talk about. So yeah, let's give me some of the questions, and I'm curious.
Yes, because that is who I want to talk about today. Jerrod Carmichael's show
is on
trial.
I'm
just Jerrod. And I can mark this if it's someone taking too long.
Yeah, of course, that's fine. Yeah.
I don't know why
Melo's sitting on my lap.
Weird. Oh, look at Jupiter.
He looks like an old man knocked out.
He is knocked out from playing and running. I know. He just ran crazy. He ran crazy at my parents' house, and then is like, and went to his puppy class. So he is like tired as hell.
Literally, he like reminds. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go.
He just reminds me of like my grandfather, like in a wife beater on the recliner, like asleep and knocked out while we're like still talking and having a conversation around him, you know? But he's just there for the company.
Not the wife beater. Not the wife beater. That's hilarious. Okay, I'll just start reading some of it. It says, internalized racism. Anytime a person experiences racism and doesn't have an opportunity to get support about it, rage or grieve about it, and address the situation, that person may take in a negative message about him, herself, or about the world. As a consequence, we often walk around feeling bad about ourselves and feeling certain that bad things will happen to us and those we love. This is called internalized racism.
Yep.
And then let me skip down. It says harmful stereotypes about people of color. The following are common and inaccurate sexual stereotypes about people of color. How have they affected us? Black and Latino men as hypersexual, Black, Latina, and Asian women as hypersexual, Asian men as sexually inferior, Asian people as having ancient erotic arts. It's like cutting off. It's so annoying because I'm trying to get to where what we read today. I'm gonna email this to us, but yeah, so it was just an interesting topic because every time we talk about that stuff, I'm just like, damn, there's so many angles to kind of
well, let's talk about it. Like, you can kind of start us off because it sounds like about it at your meetings, and then we saw Jerrod Carmichael. So just like, why don't we give like just some just a 1 minute like background.
Yes.
People who have.
So basically, I wanted to talk about Jerrod Carmichael's new show. It's called, what is it called?
I think it's called the Jerrod Carmichael Show.
Yeah, it's like the Jerrod Carmichael reality show. Yes. And so yeah, like at first I just kind of watched it as a viewer, and then I saw there was like some discourse online about it, and before I watched it, I saw some of the headlines about Tyler the Creator and him like sucking on white people's toes or whatever. And so I was like, let me watch this. And yeah, and then I saw some other conversations, like when he went on to the Breakfast Club and like kind of confronted Charlamagne.
I listened to that on Higher Learning as well.
Yeah. Yes. Well, and then on Higher Learning, they had a take on there as well.
Yeah. So basically, we want to talk about Jerrod Carmichael and just like his show, but I feel like some major themes that like kind of underlining the shows like sex, interracial dating. I feel like trauma is a big one,
Sex
and
addiction,
sex
yeah,
addiction, and just cheating. I think is also one. And so
and
in
friendships.
friendships, yeah. And so he made a joke about sex play, slave play, and like in the context of like his boyfriend being smarter than him, and then it goes into like it's like a joke, and basically that's like the headline people ran with. Breakfast Club did it. Jerrod Carmichael came to Breakfast Club and like checked them because he was like, "You're my friend. Why would you just run this one headline when you know there's context to it?" And then other people have been talking about it, like Higher Learning Podcast, which we love. And so yeah, we're here to talk about it too, and just our thoughts on interracial dating. And so I mean, I guess you can kind of
Yeah,
take the
and
floor
just the show,
in the
because
show.
I want
Yeah.
to like I harassed Alexis this week, and I was like, I want to talk about the Jerrod Carmichael show. Like, please watch it so we can talk about it. So I'm curious, like, what your thoughts are. And yes, like we said, like Jerrod felt that we as like a audience like made it sexual, I guess, and that he like does slave play in terms of and race play in the bedroom with his boyfriend, where he was just making a joke about the amount that he reads versus how he doesn't read as much as him. So yeah, I want to hear the thoughts about the show. What do you think about the show?
Well, just the general show. I think I love the show. Like I literally, I sat down and started watching it. Like I was immediately hooked. Julia came in later on when I was watching the first episode and was like hooked, and we like binged it. I think it's actually one of the most in a way vulnerable and intellectual reality shows I have ever seen, because it is so pointed, like it is so direct, like it's like he's showing you literally the worst part of themselves. For example, he's a terrible friend, right? Like he's like having this inner battle of like, yeah, like when we were teens, I was like, yeah, when we get to the top, I got you. And then now he's at the top and he doesn't really want to get them, he doesn't really want to have their back. And then just like thinking about like being late to the wedding and missing the whole fucking wedding, and you're supposed to be
he was the best
and you're supposed to be
man.
giving a fucking speech, right? Like I feel like he's showing the worst parts of himself. And I feel like interracial dating is a big part of that. Like we have yet to see him, besides Tyler Creator, in a rejection type of way, in a very painful, like love, unrequited love type of way. We don't ever see him in a successful relationship with another Black person. All his desire and like truly love and like successful love in white men, which I think is very interesting. And I think it's something he probably thinks about a lot. And I hope that we can see him kind of unpack that later on. And then also just like his relationship with his father, like that most recent episode where he's trying to talk about the fact that his father has a whole nother fucking family who had 4 kids
and
with
he's
another
never
woman,
talked about it.
and they've never talked about it. And you see his father become so shameful and trying to deflect and everything in the book to not have the conversation. I feel like and he does it through comedy, right? Which is his like superpower. He tells the story through comedy. I feel like it's very, I wasn't expecting that. I also think it's very direct when you're seeing him like stripped down. This is how I am, and it's like very honest. And I think a lot of people wouldn't want to look in the mirror in that way. And so I'm hooked because I feel like I love seeing. And then also, I'll say this, through the eyes of a gay man, Black man. I feel like you never really see the eyes of a gay Black man. We have RuPaul's Drag Race. Okay, that's not like, you know what I'm saying? We don't really, I can't think of another reality show through the eyes of a gay Black man. And so I find this to be, I love the journey I'm on with it. And then him going through his grappling with his cheating and the sex. I mean, I just feel like, ooh, I love it. What about your thoughts?
Yes. I mean, I also really, really, really like it. I think that, like you said, it's very vulnerable. It's definitely something we've never seen, and it is his reality. And I think it's kind of like, it can't be like, people are not putting themselves out there like this. And so it's just, like you said, like people might be
Mm-hmm.
seeing themselves or not wanting to see themselves. And yeah, it's just super, super vulnerable. And that's what I like. I like to get to the depth of the situation. I want to know what's going
Yeah.
on with you internally. And I mean, at least he's facing his stuff and being honest. Like the first step is to admit that you have a problem,
So
So
what are
I
your
feel like he's
thoughts?
doing that. And I
What are,
also just love, sorry, I just want to say, I
it's
just
okay.
love seeing like him, living his life like out loud,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of anything people would say. And I think
So what
he's
are your
leaning into the cringe factor and like whatever. He's just like,
I
fuck it.
agree. I agree. And even if it's not like you're seeing yourself, I feel like the fact that he's showing that these types of people exist, like people that sometimes are shitty
Mm-hmm.
ass friends, people that all kind of don't want to help out and want to just go in their bubble and be selfish, people who act that they're every woman, have sex with whoever they want, even when they have a boyfriend. Like, I feel like he's showing this type of person. And
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't see yourself in that, the
Yes.
fact that you're showing this ugly, bad part of you is very interesting. But I wanted to know,
Mm-hmm.
what are your thoughts on this whole, well, like, I guess we can start with like the slave like play joke, and then
Like
just get
upside
into the
down.
deeper thing, because I feel like after listening to Higher Learning, it seems like interracial dating is a big thing, there. And I feel like no one wants to say it. They didn't end up naming it, but like Charlemagne didn't really name it. Like, I feel like interracial dating seems like to be the problem here with a lot of it and the discourse around it. And so yeah, just tell me all your thoughts, I guess, in relation to like the slave play joke, but also the interracial dating piece.
Yeah, I
And
mean, when I heard it, yeah, I understand that he's a comedian.
mm-hmm.
Like and I know Charlemagne was like, the joke wasn't funny, but I'm like, come on now, people. Like, it's a joke. Like, it wasn't like, when you listen to it in context at the end of the show, I just didn't feel like Charlemagne was like, there were the white people laughing with you or at you. And I'm just like, we're all like, first of all, they feel uncomfortable about laughing. So maybe they're not going to do that. But like, he is laughing. I don't know. I just didn't think it was that serious.
This is
And
my
I just
thing.
hate how the internet gets so fucking up in arms about
This is
things
my thing. I
like
feel
that.
like I did not, after hearing the slave play joke, I did not leave the episode thinking he does slave play sexually with his boyfriend. I feel like in the
Right.
joke, he names so many other things that they like of that like seem realistic to me that they do. Like, and I like, he was like, cuddling, because the whole, I feel like it was like, when you're with someone, especially when you think the world of them, you start to be like, oh my God, like, it's like a drunken love situation. Like, oh my God, like, you can convince me to do anything. And I actually feel like you're better than me in all these things. And you're just so amazing. And like, I can't imagine, I love doing everything with you, even these types of things. And I just feel like he was just doing that to be outrageous. He said slave play to be outrageous. I did not leave it thinking he likes slave play. It's, in fact, I feel like
Yeah,
I
he
didn't
made a
even,
joke.
in fact, leaving the episode, I feel like the major theme was that interracial dating, but then also specifically that he has a fucking sex addiction and he has a problem, because I feel like the main thing
Yeah.
about it was he's falling in love, but he's also having these desires to cheat. And I feel
Right.
like the main thing,
Exactly.
I'm falling in love with a white man and I want him to treat me poorly like a slave. And so I feel like people ran with that the minute he said it. And I think,
I was
I
upset.
do,
I was a
well, I was just gonna like
What
lastly
are you gonna
say,
say?
I was upset too, because when he was confronting Charlemagne about it, Charlemagne was like, well, I only saw the clip. I didn't see the whole joke. And I'm like, so how ignorant and how piss poor do you have to be as a journalist or as a radio TV personality, or even a shut down that as an interviewer interviewing someone, that you did not read the full book or watch the full video or listen to the full song? It reminds me of when Nicki Minaj came to the Breakfast Club, and they had to admit they hadn't even listened to the full album. You know what I'm saying? It's like, do your research. Like the fact that you would run the whole headline
And the
and have a
episodes are
whole
so short.
right and have a whole segment about the joke, but didn't actually listen to the whole joke. To me, that's more so the problem here. You ran your mouth when you had no idea what you were fucking talking about. That's the problem. And I feel like Charlamagne gets away with that a lot of the time. And so for me, I was kind of like, oh, so you didn't even listen to the full joke. You didn't even watch the whole episode. Why are you even talking about it?
Right. I feel like I was really upset with Higher Learning's take, because I feel like I just think that, and I love the podcast, so like obviously, you know, we can talk about
nothing's
criticism
above
without,
criticism, like, even Beyonce.
Yes.
So you can critique something and still love
it. Yeah. So like I felt like Rachel was really driving home the fact that like he was talking about sex the whole episode. So like, of course we thought about it in like a sexual way. And I'm like, no, it was definitely not all about sex. And are you making it all about sex? Because you know, because you can't get that off your mind, because this is like a gay man. And yes, he did talk about sex a lot, but I feel like, I don't know. I feel like you're not able to separate the two, because you're only thinking about
like sex and gay men.
Separate just love. Like he was talking about how he loves this boy and whatever, and that he's having like a sex addiction problem. And then he makes this joke. It's like, so he talked about other things besides like just sex. And I just feel like it was weird that she couldn't see past that. And then Van Lathan he was like on 10 on that episode. He just like couldn't hear anything. I felt like, because he said he was about to like crack or something. But I feel like he just went on a tangent about just, okay, well, if he doesn't care about how Black men in the community look, like we can't care either. And like, I know she said that Rachel also brought up the point that like there was a few people in the community that, in like the Black gay men community specifically, that were complaining that he wasn't representing them well.
I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah, and I feel like she kind of just took that and ran with it, and I just disagreed in the fact that, for one, we've never seen this stuff before. So it's not a monolith. It's not a, you know, he can't represent every Black gay man.
That's the first thing I was gonna say. Like I remember I had like, actually he was on my committee, Dr. Brown, the guy, her husband, the Black man that was on my committee for my dissertation.
Oh yeah.
I took a course with him, and I remember like we had a day about this. Like it was like, you know, some people come into, you know, hiring committees as a Black, you know, tenure track professor, and they can't wait to get on the department, and they're like, you know, I bring the Black experience, or I talk about the Black experience. And he's always just like, you can't as one person bring the Black experience, because there's Black people in rural America, there's Black people in the suburbs, there's Black people in white suburbs, Black suburbs, the city, all of the Black people in the UK. But like, you can't bring the Black experience. The Black experience varies in a multi-million different ways, right? And so it's like it's automatic red flag for him when he sees someone wanting to like say, like, kind of, make it a monolith. Like, I can get Black experience and put it all together in a bag for you, because that you can't. It's very different, and it looks different. We all live,
and it's actually dangerous to do that.
Dangerous, but it's also like we all live the Black experience. Jerrod Carmichael is showing and expressing one segment of the Black experience. For the lack of a better word, I said segment, but like one version of the Black experience. There is a Black experience that is valid and real, that are Black gay men who grew up in the South, moved to a city, and their first real awakening of like gay experience is with a white man. That is a real, valid experience. That doesn't mean they hate black people. That doesn't mean they never want to date black people. That doesn't mean they might not end up with a black person. But it is a real, true, valid experience. Just like a black gay man who comes from the South, moves to the city, and only dates black men is also a real, valid black experience. So to say that you don't feel represented by this one person in your black experience is just very tone deaf and ignorant, because it's
And
just
I
like,
feel
I
like,
don't
and
believe that if you just pick, sorry, let me just finish this. If you pick one black woman out of a bunch of black people, that she could represent me. I absolutely don't believe that. So why would you think that this one black man can do the same for you?
right. And I guess like I just appreciate that we're getting this level of vulnerability
Me
and
too.
just like realness. I feel like I've talked to, obviously I'm not a black gay man, but I feel like it represents like an experience that I've heard from my friends that
Absolutely.
are gay and black. And it's like, this is a reality. Like, this is somebody's reality. Somebody can relate to this. And I think it's so important. Like, these are
Yes.
big topics that he's bringing up. He's talking about being accepted and loved by his family and how that has affected him
Family
and how
trauma.
he's, yes, family trauma, being gay, like feeling the rejection from your family. And like he said in the last episode, like, but paying for the house, like he's not welcome in a house that he's paying for.
That was like, damn. But also
And just
just like,
seeing all of these like self-protection things, like he's like, I feel like the reason that I can't be super critical, because of course, like I've dealt with cheaters and I feel like, sorry, I'm trying not to say like so much.
it's
I
okay.
feel
This is real. Okay. We're having a real conversation.
I feel that I'm blanking, sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, while you think, like, just because you don't see yourself in a in a TV show or a representation of in a show about a black person, and you don't see themselves in it, does not mean it's not real. You know what I'm saying? For example, there were many different ways I saw myself in the Insecure like show, right? Like having a tight knit group of black girlfriends. You live in like a city or like a suburb right outside of a city. You have, you're living this like middle class life. But there was also other things I didn't like, relate to. The fact that they clearly had like a roster on them. That's never been my experience. Molly living in a penthouse, never been my experience. There's so many other things. I did not sit there and say that's not real. That's not like life. I actually think that's a very white thing to do.
But I guess
Hold on,
I
I would
don't
just
think
like to finish this.
I don't
Like,
think that they're saying that
very,
it's not real though.
or
I
just
feel
like
like
it's
they're
not
saying that
it's not a representation, because I feel like I feel like white people do that a lot, where they look at film and they don't say it was good because they didn't do it, or they said that they were bored by it because they relate to it or they didn't find it interesting. I feel like this is the same thing. It's like, just because you do this life and you don't have this shared lived experience doesn't mean it's not a representation of a part of the community. It's like, take yourself out of it, decenter yourself. Like, this is a representation. You just did not live this, and that's fine. You don't have to. You're not supposed to have lived everything that every black man has lived just because you're a black man.
And I guess I just don't see how it is a bad representation if he is,
I think it's the
being
interracial
honest
dating,
about
Samantha.
his experience.
I think it's the interracial dating.
So yeah, I think you're right. And let me read this really quickly. So, and the crazy thing about this is like, he is, and we all should, I feel, do introspection, and he's obviously doing that. And I feel like I'm able to give him compassion even when he's doing these horrendous things, like, cheating on his boyfriend. Like, I feel like if I was telling you that I was in that experience, like of somebody just cheating on me over and over again and blah, 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 like we would judge the hell out of him. But for some reason, I think just with And maybe that's what people are seeing. They're just like, this guy is a terrible person without like having more of a filter of like, I think just being in these meetings, I hear people's stories every day of just, you know, being human and being flawed and actually dealing with it. And that's why I feel like I can have compassion for him, because, and I can have compassion for other people too, but it's just like, I'm not leaving the show like, this man is terrible. Like, there are things that I can be like, damn, like that's kind of fucked up. And just also funny, I feel like he really wants to remove the elephant in the room. So he is just like going 10 toes down. Like when he showed his dad the picture, he was like,
why would you show your dad a picture of this? Like of
I
your boyfriend out the
know.
shower for the picture of like, you want to see what my
Right.
boyfriend looks like? I agree, though. I think that's a
Yeah.
good way to put it. He's trying to remove the elephant, acknowledge the elephant in the room, basically, and like, or put the elephant
And
in the
he
fucking room,
does,
make it
I think
awkward.
he is like, yeah, I think he does want to like just go there and make it awkward and make people feel uncomfortable,
I feel this is
we
what I
all know what
feel.
everybody's thinking.
I
And
feel that people might have said it's not a representation of the experience, or just like didn't like really fuck with him, because I truly believe it's because of the interracial dating. I feel like even if people say they're fine with it, it doesn't matter to them, they don't care, I feel like they have a bias against it. Like, I truly do. I feel like if they had been the same show, but all black men sucking a black man's toe, being very sexual with a black man, kissing him, falling in love, cheating on him, and then even making a really bad joke that's like possibly dark joke about it, I think there would be think pieces about like how he's showing black gay love, sexual desire, and how that's like really revolutionary and really radical and really cool. I think the fact that he is doing this with a white person makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and that is their problem with the show. That's my
yeah, and
thoughts.
I think I agree. I think that is the criticism that's coming from like not being represented well.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like maybe part of the reason why there is this critique, not only that just like people don't like interracial relationships because, you know, they just don't think that black and white people should be together, but also just like the indignation of like what that could mean, like if you're trying to get approval from or validation from. And that's why I want to read this really quickly. So
Yeah,
this is
go
what
for
I
it.
was wanting to bring up. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a part of this People of Color in Slaw, and it says, hold on, I just had it. Oh my goodness. Okay. Racism and relationships. It is useful to take an inventory of the way race and racism have impacted our sex and love addiction. Do we seek only partners of our own race? Is this because we want to feel connected to our community, or because we need a partner to validate that we belong? Do we only seek white partners? If so, why? Do we find that white people expect us to take care of them, heal them, submit to them, nurture them? Do we find ourselves chronically codependent to white people? Do we see white people as better than us, more important, more powerful? Do we see white people as the enemy? Do we find ourselves constantly angry or easily angered at white people, unable to have much serenity around them? Do we see white people as all the same? Do we feel inadequate in our own communities, not feeling Black enough, Latino enough, Asian enough, etc., due to negative stereotypes in society or negative experience with people of color? Do we have difficulty trusting people of our own background, white people, other people of color? And then the last one is, do we seek out people who will view us as sexual stereotypes? And so I feel like it's just good things to ask because these things can be true. Like people,
Absolutely.
like we do have internalized racism. Is this
Absolutely.
somewhere that he is seeking approval? Like it's just good to
What do
ask
you
yourself
think?
the questions.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I guess
I
it's not
I
for us
don't
to
know.
judge that. Like, it's just like we don't know what's his
Yeah, this is
internal
his
working,
journey.
and that's his journey. And I
Exactly.
want to be very like respectful and
Exactly.
like about that because I feel like
Absolutely.
all people of color deal with internalized racism, and I want to be respectful in
Mhm.
everyone's journey with that.
Yep.
But
Yep.
you're right. Like, it is questions to ask. Like, is this what it? How it's manifesting.
Yeah, and just asking yourself like, yeah, how it manifests in your life and like I understand too like being a Black woman, being a part of a
Mm-hmm.
Black community.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the feeling because when I
Yeah.
read these, it's
Absolutely.
like and it's like, do you see why people as the enemy or constantly find ourselves angry or something or easily angered? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
not always, but I'm definitely more sensitive. Like, I'm definitely more on edge of like, what are they gonna say?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just being very protective of myself and stuff. And
No, I
so,
get that.
I think yeah, it's just such a nuanced conversation, but
I think so
those
too.
are
And
just
like,
something
I
to think
think
about.
it is something to think about. And like, everyone,
Because
deals
the
with,
point is to love yourself. The
yes,
point is not to like find validation in these other ways or remain scared and,
but what's
like
interesting? I
supposed to have
saw,
serenity. We don't want to have, I feel like, sorry, I just going to end. Like,
no, it's
we don't
okay.
want to, I don't want to carry that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it's heavy to like be always on edge and easily angered and see anybody as like the enemy in this world. And it's like, I just feel like, it gives you the opportunity to see where you feel smaller or weaker or like
Yeah.
victimized by. Although these things are also very true in a systemic, you know, capitalistic in our history, but in everyday life and moving forward, it's an interesting aspect of how to move forward. So,
It is an interesting
yeah.
thing. I feel like one thing that I have, like, I agree with everything you said. And I think I have two thoughts. One is that, like, I kind of saw that, like, there's so, like, I don't think, just from an outsider, that he's all the way like okay and like loving himself. But because I feel like, we see him battle the sex
Sure.
addiction, we see him be a
I mean,
horrible
for
friend,
sure.
we see him have this,
Just being so sad about Tyler the Creator.
yeah, this was gonna say, like, being so traumatized, having such a traumatized family upbringing, having this situation with Tyler Creator, and Tyler Creator kind of being a bad friend to him too, like not responding back to the text about the Emmy till the day of, and laughing again. And I think Tyler has a lot of unpacking to do himself. But I feel like I don't like. I would say I don't know where. Like, I would say I don't know what is manifesting these behaviors. It could be internalized racism, it could be all the other things I mentioned, but I feel like he has a lot of work to do. One thing that I like
Mm-hmm.
find to be just like very interesting is that, and I feel like I saw this with hiring a lot, where they're like, well, if he doesn't care about, Black people, then blah blah blah. It's like the immediate assumption that because he's showing, not even dating, because I feel like he was like showing all of these love affairs with white people, that he automatically doesn't love or care about Black people. And that was a very interesting, like,
Mm-hmm.
um, I mean, you know this, but I don't know if the new viewers, the listeners know, but I mean, I am in love. I'm in a relationship, of a very long relationship with a white partner, and and so it's like, I mean, take that with however my opinions are with, you can have that context there. But I find that to be a very dangerous jump, because in my mind, there, well, many things. One, can't you just love whoever and it be no judgment along with that? Two, just like, is this the only way that you can show that you're on team blackness, is by dating another black person? Like, I can do anything else. I can do like, if Kanye right now was dating a black woman, we would still think he loves black people. You know what I'm saying? If and this is just real. Like, if people, like, I feel like I see so much hatred, and I don't say hatred. I've seen so many actions throughout my 31 years of life that have been either explicitly or implicitly dangerous towards black people, done by white people and also done by black people. Just because those people have black partners, are they supposed, they get the assumption and the automatic people that they love that they're team blackness? I find that to be very dangerous, because I see a lot of black people, because I'm mostly surrounded by black people in my life. I probably have 2 people in my life that are in, like, my close bubble. That would be 1, my partner, and 2, Jimmy and Miguel. Sorry, 3. So it's like, outside of those 3, the 31 years, I've seen many dangerous behaviors from some of my black friends at times, you know what I'm saying, that have been harmful to me and other black people. Mm-hmm. But just because they're with a black person, they get the stamp. I find that if that is your metric, that you just need to literally be dating a black person, then I guess then I feel like, at that point, we and you can't have a conversation, because it's so ignorant and so superficial. And so I always just ask that question. It's just like, it's such a weird jump to me, because is that your stamp of approval? They could give money to the RNC. They could give money to people like super PACs and people like
they could vote for Trump.
They could vote for Trump, but as long as they have
they could have been at the Capitol.
But I'm not even that. I'm just thinking about people like who do dangerous things, like at a higher level, like thinking about like, we know how the NFL treated Colin Kaepernick, right? We know how they did. They blacklisted him. He still can't get a job. We know that there's white getting money off the backs of these black players, but we also know that Jay-Z at one point was entertaining a deal with a partnership with the NFL. That's a very dangerous link we have right there to the black community.
Well,
but hold on.
I just want to clarify that he didn't just entertain. Jay-Z is in business with the NFL.
Right. He's in business with the NFL.
The Super Bowls.
People would say that's an a very dangerous, anti-black, very capitalist thing directly right then and there, right? They're making money off of these black players. They refuse to acknowledge like police brutality. They even like punish someone doing that, their own player, to the point where they blacklisted him. However, he has a black wife, he's pro-black. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's pro-black or not. But I'm just saying, you could make moves such as that at such a high level and visibly against the interests of black people at times. But just because you have a black partner, you are a pro-black person. If that is your argument, it's very simple, it's superficial, it lacks into logic, and it's very dangerous. And I'm kind of looking at you with your black card, like,
right. And yeah, it is. I agree with you. I definitely feel like if that is your like meter of if you're doing something for black people, I do feel like that is very dangerous. I do feel like there's space for the conversation about like some of those questions that I just mentioned. Like I just watched
absolutely
the O.J. Simpson documentary, and he
very Made in America one.
Yeah,
it's like I've seen that one before too, and he very clearly had a thing.
Yeah, he had a thing about blackness and white people and like being on that status and whatever.
Absolutely.
And I think there's space for those two things.
Yes.
But I also think if you have those, if you have that, like that's your limit. I think that, like you said, I think it's very dangerous.
I think what you said is the right thing to say.
And I think people would also just disagree. Like my 91-year-old Black grandfather
from the South.
from Texas, who is just a beautiful Black man and has lived a true Black experience, all his life.
I don't want to say it like that, but he's lived a Black experience. I don't want to say true in front of it, but it's like he's a Black man from the South, and I feel like that has a lot of weight on it in general,
Yeah, yes. And I'm not trying to say true like that, but just like if he has been Black, like while he was married to and had kids with a white woman. Mm-hmm. And that didn't take away from his Black experience or like make him
some
any
people
less,
would
like,
say that is.
Yeah. And like that's like a reason that I'm here. Like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't
it's
for
interesting,
him.
Samantha. It's interesting you say that. Because
I just feel like people wouldn't. I don't think. Let me just wrap this bow about my pop-up. I don't think that people would. I don't think people would say to him if they knew his story and everything that he wasn't for Black people. You know what I mean?
But also just like, I think what you said was right. Like we should have space for both, right? There should be space for like, bruh, let's analyze racism. Let's analyze, let's have some self-reflection. But there also should be some space from you just love who you love. It shouldn't be that one of them is 100% the assumption we have on the person. And then secondly, I feel like, I don't know, this is really vividly like making me remember the conversation with like very close friends that I love. Do you remember this? Where we were, I was like, very honestly, I'm still like dealing with the trauma from that conversation because it was like very harmful to me. I felt as like a Black queer woman. But their whole thing was that, like they try to throw everything at the book. Well, you can't have Black kids if you're with a Black person. You're not with a Black person, and the whole point is like, population growth and stuff like that. And I'm just like, okay, so you don't think J. Cole's Black? Because J. Cole has a white mother, a whole white mother. I just started naming people, and it's like, of course, they see that person as Black. So it's like, that's there goes that thing. And then the second thing they try to say, and then I was like, I don't want to have a white baby. And I remember one of our dear friends who I love, being that the thing that like harping on that. But like, what if you do? And I'm like, I don't want to have, and thinking that was the most craziest, horrible, like offensive ever say. And it's as a Black woman, I would like to have a kid that I can like somewhat relate to, and like, and a white baby I can't. And then also the odds of having a fully white baby is so low that it's just like, why is this the thing you're harping on? But I just feel like that kind of exposed to me their ignorance and also their biases, because it's just like, there are real people out here, educated people out here with very backwards beliefs, and like, I don't know, like we can just later, but like, I just feel like a lot of people don't hold space for both, and they want to just have this whole like pro-Black this, pro-Black that, and it's just like, okay, let's talk about pro-Blackness. Would you allow, like, I know one of our friends like allowed a white person to say something very derogatory in front of them and did not speak up for you know what I'm saying? I know, like, in a workplace, I know, like, and some people would say that's like a very weird action, that person to permit to do that, like I know like Black boys who we grew up with who are very cruel about Black women and said craziest things, like at a McNamara. I think about ASAP Rocky and how he said, like, openly says he doesn't really like to date dark-skinned Black women, and hence he's with Rihanna. No one is calling him not pro-Black because he dates a Black woman, but he said something. He said basically he doesn't date dark-skinned women. He doesn't like them. I would say that's more of a bias, like straight up saying a bias. And so it's just like, to me, it's like, again, if this is your trick, have the ASAP Rockies, have the Jay-Z's, have the Black people that let white people say crazy shit in front of them. Have them, because over here, my island, not having to deal with any of that,
I feel like we as a people just have to have more nuanced conversations about it. Like, we cannot just stay in the like the arc ages about like it just feels too dumb, too simple. Like you are not for the black community if you date a black or like fall in love with somebody that's not of your race, because that's just not going to happen, and it is very dangerous. And it's like I just think that yeah, like we have to just have some type of, I just feel like as a black community sometimes we're just really like simple about just like I've seen some people talking about like Beyonce's hair and how
Oh
like we just be
gosh, yeah.
talking about things that are just really just shouldn't even be like debatable, I guess. But I don't know, like the race
What were you gonna?
conversation with relationships.
Go ahead,
Huh?
finish your thought. I was just asked, like, what do you mean by Beyonce's hair? Elaborate, but you can finish the thought you were having.
Yeah, I just the race conversation with dating and like interracial relationships. And I want you to explain the white baby thing again, because I feel like I missed what that
Okay, so
was
remember, I was
about.
having like I was basically in a
Yes, I
debate.
remember this. I
Okay,
remember this
so
dinner.
I had said so once I trumped the whole thing about like, well, you can't have a black baby, and I was like, so what is Cole? And they're like, okay, I guess you can't have a black baby when you're with a white person.
Mm-hmm.
Then it became this whole thing of, well, what color? What color is your baby gonna be? You know, and what happens if you have a
Mm-hmm.
baby that doesn't look like J. Cole, right? And the baby is like,
Mm-hmm.
comes out like, just how genes are. And then they had this whole thing, and I was like, I don't know. I just know that I want a black baby, and I know that like when if and when we do the sperm situation, we would pick something that would allow us to have a visibly black baby, whether however you want to take that, because I feel like I look visibly black, but also like there's people who might look mixed to us, but like the world reads them as black because we are racial, and race is funny like
Mm-hmm.
that socially. And so I was like, so they were like, well, what
So
if
are
you have
you
a
saying
white?
that you would want a baby that is like, visibly black to the rest of the world versus just to some people, you know?
I want a black baby.
Like,
Like I want a baby that when you see them, that's a black kid. You know what I'm saying? Like blackness, I feel like is a spectrum, right? Like for example, um, Halle Berry, she has white parent, however, she's read as black to the world, right?
mm-hmm.
Alicia Keys, same. Mariah Carey, the same. However,
Okay.
Mariah Carey is very light, right?
Gotcha.
Um, we have a mutual friend who has a parent who is black and a parent who's not like a person of color. They still are read as a black person though in
Mm-hmm.
the world. You know what I'm saying?
And that is what you're saying, that
That's what
you
I'm saying.
want
I want a
this
black
read
kid.
as.
They exactly. Does that make sense?
I
Whether
think, yes. I think that when you say it, it's like, okay, are you saying that you want just like you're not okay with having a kid that is, it's not even that you're okay. It just sounds like you're like, I
right,
want a black
okay,
kid. Like I want it to be seen as like, the blackest kid on the playground type thing. But you're
no,
saying just
no.
read as a black child.
A black
Yes.
person
Okay.
that a person that is read as a black being in the world. Does that
I
make
feel
sense?
like it sounds so bad. Yes.
What sounds bad about that? I feel like
Not
being
you,
read as
me
a black
saying the blackest
person.
kid on the
Oh,
playground. That's what I
okay.
said. Sounds
No, I
bad.
mean, no, not like that. I'm just saying, like, I want them to be read as black because I have like biracial, being a biracial kid and being read as a biracial person is a whole valid, lived, true experience of biracial people. And they have a lot of like trauma sometimes, for example, because they feel like they don't really fit in with this one category, but they don't also fit in with this other category, right? And so they're like living in the middle, and it's like they would have
And
wished they
are
would
you
have had.
saying Alicia Keys is not that?
I'm saying Alicia Keys might feel that way, but Alicia Keys is read as a black woman in America. Streets, like see
And
Alicia Keys and
I
treat
just
her
want
like a black woman. You know what I'm saying? However, there's
I
people like
want to
let
I
me
just
just
want
let
you
me just
to
finish
tell.
this thought. But then there's people um like Ro what's Quincy Jones' daughter, Rashida Jones, who
Oh,
has a black
Rashida Jones, yeah.
dad, white mother, but is very ambiguous. At times can pass as a white woman, but I'm sure when she goes to white spaces doesn't feel all the way accepted. Because one thing we know about whiteness, it will show you that you're not white. So it's like she probably doesn't feel all the way accepted by white people in white spaces. However, coming to black spaces, she probably also doesn't all the way accepted spaces because she sometimes can pass as a white woman. Like she doesn't probably share
I
the
guess what
same
I'm
shared
just
experiences
saying,
as me and you share. So I'm saying like she
I
is
guess
navigating in the middle.
I just want you to know that I would argue to say that Alicia Keys and Halle Berry probably feel like that. Like they
So
probably
maybe
have
they
that
do.
same
Yeah.
feel. I'm pretty sure they do. Like, you know, like
Yeah.
they're red as black, but they still are like, but my mom is white, and like, you
Yeah.
know, like it's just
So
and so
yeah.
I just want you to know that like even if they appear to be more one side, that they might still have that internal struggle of like not feeling
Absolutely. I
black
think you say that they don't have
enough.
internal struggle. All of us, like I said, have some type of internalized struggle. But my point is
But
that you
just
read
the
them.
biracial
Yes.
struggle.
My point though was that they're read as black people, so than like a straight up rather than not black. I don't know. I hear what you're saying. But my point of the question, this is my point of the story though. That was a very small point. Their whole thing was, what if you have a white baby? They, for some reason, wanted to highlight on the fact that, what if I had a white baby? And I was saying, well, I don't want a white kid. Like,
And white doesn't mean Rashida Jones, though.
No, they're talking,
like
they're talking a, like your
blonde
normal
hair, blue eyes.
Yeah, like a white kid, And I said I didn't want a white kid. And that was for some reference to the point where they said they felt personally offended that I said I didn't want to have a white kid because they have a boss who at the time was trying to conceive in that as a white person. Even though this is a straight black woman, was triggered by me saying I wanted a white baby. And so I say that to say the fact that I even was having to argue this was already traumatizing because it's just like, no, if I was with a black partner, you would never have me having discussions about what if I had a white baby,
white
right?
baby.
Even if I was with a black woman, there's a shortage of black male sperm, so it's a very that, and it is a real thing you can look at. There's a New York like black women having to use terms even when they have a black partner to conceive. So it's like, but even there, that just shows they were ignorant to that. But regardless, they would not making me having to defend this decision I have had to be in a relationship with this person and going back and forth about our baby's color if it was a black woman. Even though black women sometimes have to use white sperm, and this could be, this reality of a biracial kid or whatever, how genes play out could be a real reality, but they were ignorant to it. And my thing is that, so it was like, that kind of showed me like the deep bias you have here, because the fact that I'm even being put in a position to argue this is stupid. And it's also very traumatizing. But then it was like this whole thing about like, well, how could you date a white person and not want a white kid? And I'm like, I just feel like there were so many like things that were like going on in my mind, but I feel like just because I'm a black person who is in a relationship and loves a white person forever or for this period of time, then mean that I have disregarded all black children and never want them. And I specifically now and should be okay with having a full white baby. Take me to Sweden and take me to the adoption center. No. Like, that like already that assumption is so ignorant. You know what I'm saying? But then secondly,
yeah, and it also just doesn't work for like, I feel like it doesn't work the other way. Like if a white person were to say that in that situation, like, well, I don't want to have a black baby but it's like the fact that your child, like if you're in an interracial relationship and your partner wants to, like, I just feel like it doesn't work the other way around, because it never, like, the baby's not going to come out white if you're having a baby with you know, a
Exactly.
Black
It was
person.
a
So it just
ridiculous
doesn't work the
argument,
other
Samantha.
way.
It was a ridiculous
Because it's
argument.
like nobody would ask a white person, like, but don't you? Or like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't like just like, and then like it like just because I choose like in this moment I'm choosing to be in a relationship with a white person does not then mean that I hate my blackness and I don't care about Black people so much so that I'm willing to opt out of blackness for the rest of this like my offspring. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, it's just a weird assumption. And then secondly, it's that I would be proud and affirming and want to have a kid that I can like relate to and racially and to want to do their hair and to share all the little Black girl rituals or Black boy rituals that I had with my mom. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like the fact
Yeah.
that I would not want to have that bond just because
It's,
I'm with a white person is the most ignorant thing. And to think that I
and I
wouldn't
also
and
think
like
it's unfair because you being in a lesbian relationship, you have to go through this like different experience of having a child, like where
mm,
it's not just having a baby with the person that you're having sex with, you know?
mm,
So it's
mm.
like, and nobody, like you said, would ask them, like, if I was with somebody that was Black, nobody's like, but would you be okay with having a white baby? It's like, no, I want the baby that I would have, you
Even
know?
right. If you were with an Asian partner, if you were with a Latino partner, nobody would ask you, well, are you having an Asian kid or a Latino kid? That would be absurd because nobody would think that you would just opt out of having any of your genes included in the whole situation, that you have like an Asian
Right.
sperm with with an Asian egg and then have an Asian baby randomly and just ignore your entire background. Nobody would ever assume that on you. They'd assume that on me is wild, you know? And
And
like,
I guess it's just more so like adoption. Like if you're gonna go the, like, not saying that you would, but
mm-hmm.
maybe that was like what she was offended
Wouldn't
about.
I
Just
try
like,
and seek out to adopt a Black kid, like, or even a biracial kid that's the representative of both of us? Like, to assume that I would then have to be okay with just having a white kid is just ignorant. Like, it's just ignorant. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's like asking
yeah.
someone with a disability, so are you gonna get a kid that has cerebral palsy too? Like what? Like, you know, it's just like it's ignorant. It's very ignorant. And I found it to be just like
It's a very confusing conversation.
it is a very
Like
confusing conversation. It's like, well, but the fact that the person then got offended, said that I was being racist by saying I didn't want a white baby, is like
I think
like
it's
that to
just
me.
I think that it's just the way that it comes out of your mouth, that it's like it makes them feel like it's like, what? I don't know. I don't
I
know.
mean, well, man,
I'm not
it just
saying that it's
exposes.
right. I think it just sounds not good. Like it sounds cringe, but it's true. And it's like, just, I don't know. It's
A
just
lot
the
of
way that it
people like have hopes
sounds.
for their
Like if somebody
babies.
said they didn't want to have a Black baby, if the white person said like, I don't want to have a Black baby, that would just be weird, you know?
It
But
would, but
I
I feel
don't
like
know,
we're
man.
ignoring power here. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like when people throw out the word racism, sometimes I'm just kind of like, I don't know. It kind of exposed to me they didn't really know what racism really meant. In my definition of racism,
Come here.
power is a very big part of it. The person with power is the person that's able to exert racism. Prejudice is a thing, but to
Mm-hmm.
exert the like to say that I am superior and this can have that type of like authority to do so, power is present. And that's why a lot of people say white people have the ability to be racist, because power is there. They have power to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like so calling
Right.
a blacker woman racist is already just like not using the term correctly. But then because I don't have
Right.
that
Right.
power.
Right. Right.
Prejudice, you could make an argument.
Mm-hmm.
But racism, no. And then secondly, I feel like we're also ignoring power, because if a white woman said the statement of I don't want a Black baby and having a Black partner, power would be present there because they're from the white race, right? There's a lot of biases, narratives that get put on the
Mm-hmm.
Black body. We get that we understand those messages through TV, through books, through magazines, through talking, through just witnessing how Black people get treated. They're saying that from that place, even if you can code it with, well, the hair, I don't know how to do the hair, blah 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 blah. Power is present there. Now, a Black person saying they do not want to have a white baby, power is not present there, right? It's like it's a totally different situation that a Black queer woman would say, I don't want to have a white baby, versus a woman saying that. So to even compare the two is ignorant, and shows to me that you I feel like there's various times in my life where I've had,
and it's not even like you're I think with this,
let me just finish.
I just want to say on the ignorance part. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm just gonna say, I've had various moments in my life where I've had to realize that and this is not like a flex card or anything. Like, I've had these moments where I'm on the other side of it. Like, I remember when I was working for TFA during the Summer Institute, and there was this whole thing about this like white man saying something really, in the hindsight, really harmful, and a lot of people were like going really hard against him, and I was one of the people who was like, okay, well, like, let's think about this. And then in hindsight, I'm like, oh, I was just not at the level to have that type of critical conversation that the other people in that room were having, and I could not receive the message fully and digest it, because like my consciousness was just not at the level where I could have that conversation. As I've grown and like read on my own and gone to UT and like took race courses and things like that,
you're getting a PhD
my critical consciousness has risen, has awakened, has been more critical. And so it's like I now find myself having conversations sometimes with other people where I realize they are not at the level to have this conversation with me. And I feel like this was I had that one awakening and realization when I was like coming out to my mother and my sister and realizing they could not have this level to receive any of the messages I was saying, and that it was like talking to a brick wall, and nothing I would say would ever get us on the same page until they do the work. And this was the second time. This was the second time where it was like, anything I say in this moment, I'm damn if I do, damn if I don't, because they are not at the level to even using the terminology correctly, to be fully thinking about race in a more critical, nuanced manner, to talk about race in that way, that like it's like talking to a brick wall, and I just need to stop the conversation before it starts doing damage to the friendship, you know? And so I feel like it's so that, and I just say that a lot of times I feel like people have these conversations, interracial dating, in a way that shows they're just not at the level to be talking about race in a sophisticated manner. Kind of like what Wendy said on the couch, that some people they don't have the range right now. And I feel like actually, sometimes they just don't have the range right now. And it's like, and I say right now, and I say that to say, like, race is socially constructed. It has real life consequences, but it is socially constructed. And and I say that to say, if your metric for how down for you are is just truly based on timing and like chemistry and who people love, your analysis and reflection and understanding of race is way below anything to talk to where we can meet at the same page, you know? And I say, and these two friends, I literally, and we have grown from this conversation, and we're still working through it. And it's maybe not all the way back to how it used to be, but we're still working through it, and I love them. But it's just like, I've had realizations where I'm like, there's certain people in my life who, until they get to this, like, until they have these like deeper understandings, I may not be able to talk about these things with them, you know?
Yeah. And you just don't know what you don't know what you don't know. And that's what I was gonna just say about the ignorant thing. It's just like you said, not right now. But I agree. I think that even just by your lived experience, like, it's just something that you're not able to, there's just a lot of layers and a lot of things that you really have to understand the lifestyle and just what it is to be like a Black queer woman. And, you know, like I don't think that those conversations maybe are had a lot to really understand the nuance of making those choices about like, and I feel like even myself, I don't feel like I'm all the way, you know, knowing
Like, neither am
everything
I.
right.
You know, neither am I.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're,
But yeah,
people
I
are on
think it's
different levels.
just, yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. And also just to be more curious, like, because you don't really know, it's like, I just, yeah, maybe with that conversation, it could have been more like, well, how do you make those decisions versus like,
Right. Understanding rather than trying to
yeah, or trying to understand, you
right.
know, like,
Rather than
well,
trying
why do
to
you feel
make
like
me
that?
fight and prove myself, you know? And that's how I
Yeah,
felt.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
that's
And I
how,
do
like,
think it's kind of a cheap shot. It's a cheap shot to like say that about. And again, we're having the same conversation while we can talk about internalized
yeah,
racism
yeah.
and, you know, but I also do feel like limiting love is just the worst thing you could possibly do. Like, we need more love in this place. Like, if you're trying to do that based on anything, like if we want to get real, like if you believe in God, if you believe in just love being the most powerful thing on this planet, true, genuine love that makes the world better, it's like you have no right to do that. And it's also very it's really kind of becoming like your oppressor, you know? And I think
Mm,
that we can, just because it's
mm.
like you wanting to just, you know,
Come
just
on.
having those ideas, those small ideas that
But
we
hold on,
know came from
I think that's
capitalistic
so
thinking.
good, Samantha. It is. And this is how I interpret that. Like, you're right. It's absolutely
Black
becomes like your
people,
oppressor.
we are love.
And this is how I see
Like,
that.
we
Because
will
I'm like,
never be erased.
absolutely. And this is how I see that. It's like white people back in the day used to, the paper, or not even that, one drop rule, right? We have like, it's like you are I categorize you as this because of this one drop rule. Then we see this manifested in like the paper bag test during the days of like the D9, and just being like, if you're darker than this, it's this. It's kind of like
Right.
categorizing. It's like, well, if you do this, you like, I take your black card, I trump you. I am the like almighty categorizing. I'm going to continue this categorization and things like that. And it's also, at the end of the day, harmful to other black people. Like, if you love black people, you would
Yeah.
not do something that harms them. That is the
Right.
most,
Or ostracizes
to,
them.
to ostracize and cast away and to categorize in that manner, and to write them off and say, well, he doesn't care about black people, I don't care about him. That is, I can't think of something more anti-black. Just like discarding away of a black person because they don't agree. Like, I can't. Like,
Yeah. And
discarding away
we have
them
to be patient with
in
each
this moment.
other in waking up from our internalized racism.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, we all have it. Just because you're not dating a white person
Speak on
doesn't
it.
mean that you are not like
You're immune to
that
it.
you
Like,
don't deal with it, and that you are actively, you
yes.
know,
Yes.
acting in those ways unconsciously. And it's like, we have to have more
Absolutely.
patience. We have to understand the two realities that can exist at one time: that love is
Absolutely.
real, that God and love is real. Okay, because that's really what it comes down to. Because if my parents, I wouldn't be here. So it's just kind of like I'm meant to be here. God trumps all this dumb shit. And I feel like we can also talk about how we've been affected by this and try to lift these small ways of thinking that were not a part of our society. Yes, we have had tribalism and things like that, but in
No,
terms
I'm glad you
of
said that.
being, you're like, yeah, like
Glad
we
you said
need
that,
to,
because I think that's a
yeah.
point. That's a point that people miss. Internalized racism does not just come out when you're dating a white person. You can be black love this on Instagram and everything else, and you're internalized, and still every Black person deals with internalized racism. It's a fact.
Even just thinking that white people are better than you in the subtlest ways.
Exactly. Even just the subtlest ways that is peeking through. That is internalized racism peeking through. It could manifest in your
watch
hair.
The OJ doc.
Watch Made in America.
Go watch the OJ doc.
It can manifest in your hair. It can manifest in how you dress. It can manifest in just the way you think. It can manifest in your friend group. It can manifest in so many how you talk. It can manifest in so many.
We all
things.
do it.
Many friends that wear fucking weaves.
It's been our survival.
Right. All these things, and it's just like I'm not.
It's been our survival
because I don't know exactly, and let me just know. But that's what I'm just saying. At the end of the day, do better. It's low hanging fruit, cheap, and it's just I don't know. I'm just kind of over it. But again, like take. You don't have to. You don't have to listen to what I'm saying. But that's just my.
It's
thoughts.
funny. We can end on this.
Yeah, we should end on this.
Maybe pick up this conversation with OJ. I'm like, where do we place OJ? Because literally, Alexis.
Remember
literally
this,
Jerrod Carmichael is he's taking the fall almost like he's fucking OJ Simpson and just has cast away Black people, and it's like, no, we've seen this on this level where literally this nigga said, I'm not Black, I'm OJ. And that was his thing. And then, and then the Black people, we were his biggest supporters. It's so funny watching those videos back, and I understand the feeling of what they were feeling. I'm asking myself, would I would have been on one of those people? Yes, I would have been. I would have been like, he didn't do it. Let him breathe, whatever, because it comes from pain. But in terms of just placing him, now this man has passed away, and he also is just a murderer. OJ has some serious issues.
Yeah, he does.
But in terms of just yeah, Lord. But just in terms of it's just such a crazy concept.
Can I say something?
Where do we place OJ? Is he not a part of? He's not welcome at the cookout, I'm guessing. I don't know. Do we claim OJ?
He's living a Black experience. Yes. He's definitely not welcome at the cookout. He would get cast aside, he would get kicked out. But he's living a Black experience. There are real life Black people who live with internalized racism, and they live their whole life trying to be accepted by white people. That's a real Black
so sad. And it's sad.
Candace Owens. She's a living example of that. And so no, he's not welcome at the cookout. Absolutely not. He would get cussed out if he showed up. But he's definitely a Black experience. I don't know. Because any Black life is a Black experience. But let's end it on that. Yes. But I was going to say, though, I do want to leave space and just maybe even dedicate this podcast to all Black people, because we've been talking about that. But then secondly, to Kazama Tumba, I don't know, that's been on my heart. One of our former high school classmates died, and I actually heard, I remember it all clicked, because I remember growing up in high school knowing that he had heart issues, and I believe he had a procedure with his heart and wasn't not successful. Wow. And so I don't know. I do, rest in peace, and he will be missed.
Yes, we love you, Cazelle, and yes, rest in peace. And wow.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk later, my friend.
Yes. And remember to email us discussion topics at whoamitojudgepod@gmail.com, and we'll be back next week.
Bye. Y'all.
Thank you so much for listening. Remember to email us your discussion topics at whoamitojudgepod@gmail.com. Also, remember to subscribe to Who Am I to Judge podcast on Spotify and everywhere you get your podcast. If you love us, please rate us and review. And if you don't, leave us alone. Tell a friend to tell a friend. See y'all next week. Bye, friends.